Good evening. This is the Resistance Report for January 26, 2017. We've had almost 6 days of a Trump administration. Can you believe it? I can't. We got a bull in a china shop. But no, it's worse than a bull in a china shop. It's an infant in the Oval Office. Somebody who has a gigantic ego, who lies, has tantrums. That's who is our president right now. I want to talk a little bit first about foreign policy, because foreign policy is critically important, obviously, because what happens and what the United States actually does that influences what happens abroad has a direct bearing on what happens to us. It's all one system. And so when Donald Trump talks about a wall and starts working on a wall and says that the Mexicans are going to pay for the wall and that he's going to charge a 20% tax maybe on imports from Mexico to pay for the wall, well, it's not surprising that the president of Mexico cancels his trip to Washington to meet with this child. Mexico is our neighbor. Mexico is our friend. We depend on Mexico just as Mexico depends on us. Canada is our neighbor. Canada is our friend. Also, Mr. Trump, Europe is our neighbor and our friend. It's not our adjoining neighbor, obviously, but we depend on Europe, and Europe depends on us. And when Donald Trump, as he did last weekend, says to Europe, I don't care about the European Union. I don't care about what you guys do. NATO is obsolete. I'm equating, says Donald Trump, Angela Merkel and Vladimir Putin. So what is all of this foreign policy? The Trump foreign policy, the child tantrum ego foreign policy, is basically cozy up to Vladimir Putin, one of the world's worst dictators, and disregard our friends or antagonize our friends, put up walls, stupid walls. $35 billion wall for no purpose at all. To make what kind of point? A lie that somehow more and more Mexicans are coming over here illegally? No, it's fewer and fewer, Donald Trump. Your wall is a fabrication of your imagination, your deluded head, your failure to get the facts, or your attempt to divide Americans just like you lied. Remember that lie about thousands of Muslims, Arabs in New Jersey cheering when the World Trade Towers went down? Remember, Mr. Trump, your lie about the President of the United States, Barack Obama, not being an American? Maybe not being an American, you said. Maybe an African. The entire top tier of the State Department, the professionals at the State Department, they all left en masse today. Some of them were kicked out, booted out by the Trump administration. I can't tell you how weird this is. I have been involved in many presidential transitions. You don't just boot out senior professional civil servants. You need them to help with the transition. You need them to help train the people who are going in. Even if you want to get rid of them, even if you don't want them around, even if you don't trust them, you want to, at least their memories, their institutional memories. The State Department has now lost its institutional memory. Do you feel safer? Everybody out there? So speaking of lies, I was on MSNBC this morning, and I heard the anchor of MSNBC talking about the 3 to 5 million votes that Donald Trump says were fraudulently cast in 2016 in the election just passed. You know, he keeps on saying it, keeps on lying again and again and again. And the anchor of this particular segment called that lie a fact in dispute. A factual dispute, she said. Now, here's the problem. When the media starts calling something that is a lie, that Donald Trump is perpetrating, a big, big lie, a fact in dispute, That plays into what he is trying to do. He is trying to make things that are utterly not in dispute. There's no dispute about voting fraud. There was no voting fraud. There's no evidence of voting fraud. There is absolutely no study that he can point to that shows there was any voting fraud. But once the media begins to say it's in dispute about voting fraud, that plants the seed of doubt in people's minds. That lets Trump then say it's in dispute. At the very least, it's in dispute. You see how this game works? And this is MSNBC. Steve Bannon, the strategist for Trump, the chief strategist in the White House now, formerly with Breitbart News, that hateful, hate-mongering journal. Stephen Bannon said last night to a group of media, to a group of journalists, he said, "You are the opposition party." He called them the opposition party. The media in this country, the free press, the independent press, we depend on them to get the facts, to tell us what the truth is, to hold the administration accountable. We have an administration now whose chief strategist is saying that the media is the opposition party. Now, I know many of you probably feel pretty discouraged right now because last Saturday many of you out demonstrating and you felt exhilarated and hopeful. There were millions of other people doing the same thing. And now we are slogging through the reality of Trumpland. And it's pretty awful. And I've talked to a number of you, and you say, in one way or another, how are we going to get through the next 4 years? Well, let me tell you how we're going to do it. We're going to do it because we have the strength in numbers. We know what our democracy should be and is all about. We want to guard the truth. We care about the truth. We care about making sure that our democracy works and that this petty, childlike, egoistic tyrant in the White House is contained. Maybe he will be impeached before the 4 years is out. But what we have to do, and what you will do, and I'm sure you will, is mobilize and organize and energize and join with others around you and protest and continue to protest. Nothing is going to shut us up. We are here. We will stay here. You will be a loud and louder and louder voice. We are becoming louder because this petty tyrant in the White House is doing things that we feared he would do. Now, I mentioned yesterday a book, George Orwell, 1984. I also want to suggest to you, in fact, I'm going to make the habit very often in the evenings when we get together of suggesting books. Another book you might want to take a look at is another book from that era, right close to the post-World War II era when we were confronting fascism and we needed to understand fascism. It's a book by Hannah Arendt. It's called The Origins of Totalitarianism. Read it. I'll make other suggestions as well. Here's a suggestion with regard to a website that you ought to consult with regard to how you actually mobilize and influence members of Congress. This website is called indivisibleguide.com. And if you could take a look at indivisibleguide.com, that website will be enormously helpful to you in organizing and mobilizing yourself and your friends and your family and others. This will not end. We're in it for the long haul, folks. And we will save American democracy. We will also save everything we love about America. Do not despair. Have the faith. Keep the faith. See you tomorrow night.